What up, everybody? Hope everybody's enjoying the week. I know that I am. Enjoying my new training regimen, which in future videos I'll get into. Me and Samantha, we're trying this new program out and really enjoying it. So I look forward to talking about it in future videos. However, this video is pretty jam-packed. Had actually filmed this about a month ago, but already had some videos that would come before it ready to go, and last week was pretty hectic for me, so I wasn't able to put it out until today. Sorry for the delay. I'm also trying to line up guests for future episodes. Got a couple lined up, but try to work on schedules and whatnot, and I'll be sure to pass on more information as I get it. But I think I've got a couple lined up for the weekend, hopefully, at least one for sure, and I'm trying to work on getting future guests lined up. Real quick, before I get into who my guest is for this video, November 8th, Reality Wrestling returns to the Clear Lake Recreation Sports Complex for their next television taping. They're now on Soul of the South and as well as the Cube. So go to realitywrestling.com for more details. I know Raj Singh is going to be in action. I believe ODB is going to be in action in a Diamonds Division tag team matchup. I think it's her and Strike against the Diamonds Division champion Cinema and her buddy Princess Miranda. It should be a pretty solid event, top to bottom. But again, go to realitywrestling.com for more details. Now, as far as this show, this conversation, I was very much looking forward to it. When I started thinking about people that I wanted to have a sit-down conversation with, this was a guy on my short list, and I had talked about putting him on the show probably as early as the first video that I put out as far as the conversation series. So he is the brains behind Doomsday Wrestling. He also is a character on the show. He's the owner and promoter and commentator and part-time wrestler and sometimes champion, Tex Lonestar. But I wanted to talk to the man behind that, being Gregory Vallot. We talk about a variety of topics, from our love of wrestling, his early memories of it, as well as just what was the cause and the catalyst behind the inception of Doomsday Wrestling, and talking about being on the writer director side and dealing with talent, and some of the comments that he gets about Doomsday Wrestling, and we talk in depth about it. We also talk about comics and quite a few other things. It was a really fun conversation. I really enjoyed having him on my show. So without further ado, sit back and relax and enjoy my conversation with Gregory Vallot, otherwise known as Tex Lonestar, the man behind Doomsday Wrestling. Until the next time, later. Gregory Vallot.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. Good, man. The man behind Doomsday.
Oh yeah.
So we will get into that. But I always like to ask anyone on the show, because it's a wrestling topic usually. Mm-hmm. What's your first memory of professional wrestling? What grabbed you?
First memory. My actual first memory was probably I think I was at my uncle or aunt's house, and I think NWA was on, and we saw Sting fighting.
Okay.
And that really wasn't what grabbed me, though. I mean, it was cool, and I got into it.
Was he the bleached blonde?
Yeah, bleached blonde.
The really colorful face paint. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember who he was fighting.
No, it's all right. It's Sting. You're just like, that's
Sting,
all.
Yeah, it was this crazy guy in makeup. But what I guess what really grabbed me was in middle school. There was a guy who would come to school with a lot of wrestling magazines.
Okay.
He would hide in his folder. A lot of guys would be bringing porn mags, but this guy.
Yeah. It was that was his guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Not to say that he was but yeah, and so I started looking at that, and eventually me and this guy, we started we started hanging out at school, not really outside of school. We talked about wrestling, and I started watching it when it came on Saturday. I never had cable, so I never really got to. He would always tell me about, did you see it on the USA Network this and that, and I was always behind on that. But But I always watched like this. I think it was like a Saturday night show. I think
not Saturday night's main event, but it was like the TBS Saturday night.
Well, was that cable? I don't know if TBS was cable.
It was kind of like the extended basic.
It felt like it was second go around. It felt like what I was watching had already been on.
Okay.
But when Saturday night's main event came on, that would be on instead of Saturday Night Live. That was always really, really exciting. And for a while, just because we didn't have cable, that was kind of my way of figuring out what was going on, because back then storylines were so long, drawn out.
Yeah.
And you could kind of catch on without missing a beat if you watched that way. If that's how it was now, I'd just be completely lost because the storylines changed so much. But from there, I watched wrestling. I started going to the events at the Summit, which is now Lakewood Church. Before that, it was the Compaq Center, I think. And then, Yeah. And so there's no wrestling events going on anymore there that I know of. And so I'd go there. I'd go to all the WWF events that would come there. And I remember I saw Ultimate Warrior fight Andre the Giant in like a 30-second match.
Wow.
Yeah, he just like came in and ripped into him, knocked him over, and it kind of looked like, Andre just slipped. And then Andre chased him away, but you learn later it's probably because Andre couldn't handle more than a 30-second match. I saw
or Ultimate Warrior could handle more than 30 seconds.
That's probably more. I saw Hogan fight the Big Boss Man in a steel cage, and there was one part where the point of the cage match was to escape, not to pin. And Boss Man cuffed Hogan to the cage, started climbing out. He started climbing out, and then Hogan looks at him. He just breaks the handcuff.
Oh God! So awesome. Hogan back in those days.
And then the big shining moment was the Royal Rumble. I think it was the second one. It came to Houston. It was at the Summit, and we went to that, and that was like. Mean Gene was there, and saw all the commentators. I think Ventura and I think Monsoon was the commentators, and they came down. So that was like the first big event I went to, and that was a lot of fun. And also seeing just a huge like battle royal type epic thing.
Done pretty correctly as far as I've been to a number and been a participant of a number of battle royals that don't quite go.
They can turn into mush.
The clusterfuck's always like it's always interesting when you get a bunch of wrestlers, and I mean especially like a TASW where it's like the last match of the night in certain cities. Every time we do a new city, that's what would be the main event, and you'd get guys who'd be like, God, it's just gonna be such a cluster. And I'd always try to be, well, if we tell a story, let's guys, we all wrestled before. Let's try to figure something out
in segments or something.
But I think WWE takes the cake as far as like just storytelling and spots. Like I'll watch even there was one on SmackDown not too long ago for like the #1 contendership. I mean, they kind of just make them so common that it's kind of loses its luster. But still, like the story that they were telling. And then I look at indie shows and I scratch.
Yeah, well, it's just they have like big time television production, and they have probably I don't know what to call it, like a stage manager or something directing them. You have
agent, producer, probably Vince going, do this or do that.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine if you unleash 20 guys, who are pretty new or not too seasoned in it, not making too much money, they might just run out there and do whatever.
And especially if no one's going, well, we should try to do something.
I saw one in River City Wrestling a couple years ago. Steve-O was there. And he was in it, and it was pretty good actually. Each guy that came, it was a Royal Rumble style where a wrestler would go off and then go out, and that gave everybody a chance to kind of come in and do something and kind of
get their 30 seconds or a minute of
portray what they're trying to do, and then it would eventually fill up. But it wasn't just like go and then what the hell's going on. It's just a huge fight.
Actually, I watched one reality wrestling, their iPay-per-view. It was a bunch of girls, and the majority of them, like that was their first match. But the way it was put together and the way the camera angles caught it honestly was one of the better matches on a really stacked card. But it was just kind of a testament to having Booker there and him guiding them, like elimination by elimination. This is what I want. This is the story I'm trying to tell. Really made a difference. I know when I was booking IWE, I think we had one battle royal, but it was kind of Royal Rumble style because I like the Royal Rumble style.
It's a little bit easier to.
Yeah, well, it's easier because you can go. Okay, guys, you have your at least your entrance. You have that time to shine and get yourself as over as possible before all the bedlam. Yeah.
And also, I think I'm not putting down traditional battle royals. But when it starts with 20 guys and they're already kind of out there and they're just staring at each other. And
Yeah, they're waiting for the bell.
Yeah, it just seems like wouldn't they be ripping into each other the minute they got out there?
Yeah. What was the catalyst behind Doomsday?
The main catalyst was me and a friend were at this coffee house. That sounds really dorky.
No. Hey, great.
We were at a coffee house that had it's on Westheimer. Still there. It's now called the Avant Garden, which I hate that name. It sounds like a place like Lisa Simpson would go to as a joke.
Yeah, it's like, no, we don't want your kind. You're like, oh, but guys, I used to frequent here.
Yeah, the Avant Garden.
Yeah.
And before that, it was called Helios, and I think it was called the Mausoleum a long time ago. But,
Okay.
yeah, it's called Helios when we were there. Mm-hmm. And they had this huge stage in the backyard. They had this backyard area with this gigantic stage that, as far as I know, nothing ever happened back there, because most stuff going on there was like poetry readings. Mm-hmm. I'm really making myself sound like a real. I hate poetry. Just let me.
You're such an elitist, Greg.
No, I really didn't go there often, but sometimes I'd stick my head in and all that, and because I had friends who went there by accident. No, but so
they wouldn't admit to it. I saw you there. No, you didn't.
Yeah,
no, you didn't.
So we saw, me and my buddy saw the stage back there, and we thought, it'd be fun to do something back there. And we weren't performers at this time. We had been in like a few bands together, but we never like played anywhere or did anything of note. We just we were always hams though. We were always goofballs, and we like to make fools of ourselves. And we thought we should do something back on that stage. What can we do? And I said, well, I'm not, I don't know plays. I don't know how to do that, but maybe we can do something silly. And we were like, well, what can we do that's silly? And we kind of batted around for a few days, and it was just it wasn't a serious thing. It was just kind of like, maybe we can, And probably we were both thinking it's probably not going to happen. It's probably another one of our half-baked ideas.
No, trust me. Me and my friends numerous times. I think prior to I started doing this, I had like VIP and I have Sensation and a few others, and we talked about doing a podcast. And even Ryan Davidson was like, "Let's do a podcast." Yeah. I'm like, "All right, well, when you guys come up with something, I have a channel on YouTube, so I'll probably continue to do that. But you guys let me know when you want to do a podcast." Yeah. But it was kind of one of those things like, "Oh, we should talk about the business, so on and so forth." And about a year later, we're still waiting on the first episode.
Most ideas that you have that you write down. Like I've wanted ever since we've done Doomsday Wrestling. We'll get to eventually. Yeah. I've always wanted to eventually do a game show like that has nothing to do with wrestling.
Nice.
But I don't know when or if that'll ever happen. And I don't even know what it's going to be about. But it just sounds funny being a game show.
Nice.
Being on a game show. Anyway, that's.
That would be future aspirations. And now that you have it on film, we might hold you to it.
Yeah, I have to commit. Yeah, that's a good thing. If you tell people, I try not to tell people too many things I have that I want to do, because I think 90% of what I'm not going to do, I get around to doing, so I don't want to disappoint them, or come off like a flake. But anyway, so we saw this stage back there, and we finally got the idea. Okay, well, I used to like wrestling when I was a kid. I was at this point in time, I was like in my mid 24, and I had liked wrestling. I had liked it when I was a kid, when I was in middle school, like I was talking about. Then I started liking it again in like 1999 when SmackDown started coming on.
Yeah, right around the towards that,
after it took off.
Towards the peak.
Yeah, I missed the Austin McMahon kind of battle. I got in on it on the Rock was king at the point.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think
obviously because of SmackDown.
Right. And once again, I didn't have cable, so I've never had cable in my life. So I could always only watch what was on UPN or what was on regular TV. Mm-hmm. My mom started watching wrestling with me though. She happened to just catch it, and we would start watching it. And she eventually got cable, and so she would tape on VHS back then. She would tape Raw. Come over and watch it, and we get some of the pay-per-views, not all of them. But so I had kind of not a mind for wrestling, but I knew about wrestling, and I had gone in and out of fandom like when I was a little kid to being a young adult, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I thought, in my mind, when I see wrestling, I like it, and I love the drama, but there's a lot of silliness to it that I really like too. There's a lot of comedy, or there's potential for a lot of just absurd things to happen. So I thought, well, why don't we do a wrestling show in this backyard here at Helios? And at this point, we haven't even asked anybody if we can do it. We're just coming up with ideas, and we'll do it, and we'll just make it as absurd as possible. It'll be totally silly, and we'll just do it one time, and what the hell, we'll do it. So we went and we asked the owner, and she said, yeah, you guys can do it. You know, how much do you want to charge per head, and what do you want to do, and this and that, and so we booked a date. It was like 3 months out, and we thought, okay, now we have to get a ring. We don't have a ring. Like, what do we do? So my dad, I don't say I helped my dad build this, but more like he built it all, and I just kind of watched him build it.
You cheered him on.
Go, Dad! Yeah, here's the hammer. Yeah,
what tools do you need?
Yeah, right. What's a hammer?
Can I sign the piece of wood?
Yeah. And he built this little platform. So our early shows didn't even really have a ring. It was just like a platform that we loaded up with carpet padding. We put a tarp over it.
Okay.
We built posts and we put ropes that you couldn't bounce off of. You could just you'd run into them and kind of
you have to exaggerate the pushback.
Yeah, and that was at this point we knew. I mean, Doomsday Wrestling now has a little bit more wrestling in it now. But back then it was purely a play. I mean, purely like these. There's no question about anything being athletic or not. I started out. I played a very offensive character named Wife Beater Randy Reynolds, and I was the
so apropos for today's climate in the NFL. You would completely get signed.
I know. Yeah, I should bring that back. But I had a wife with me named Sweet As Candy Reynolds. Her name was Candy Reynolds. I was Wife Beater Randy Reynolds, and she was pregnant.
Okay.
Not really, but she was. In the show, and she'd come out there and she'd hold my belt for me.
Okay.
And I would mistreat her the whole time, just like scare her and all that. And everyone just hated me for good reason.
Well, yeah. Hopefully you're not getting cheered. You're not getting like people, woo, go Randy. You're like, no guys, come on. I'm trying to. You want me to hit her for real?
Yeah. And so I had this feud going on in the show with this character named, I don't know what we were thinking. We had this character named Rumble Steelskin, which I guess is a play on Rumple Steelskin.
Yeah.
He was a short guy. But his name, Rumble Steelskin, he had tights that said Steelskin on them. Like, I guess he was made of steel. I don't even know what, like, there's not much thought went into these characters back then. And we had this feud. Oh, and his big thing was this guy was willing to cut his hair into a mullet for the show. So that's probably why he was in the main event. Because I thought, if this guy's willing to do that, then can't say no to him. So there was a big swerve at that end of the first show with Wife Beater beat Rumble Steelskin somehow, and then Candy Reynolds finally got fed up with all of Wife Beater's crap, and she challenged him to a match. And so the main event really was Wife Beater versus Candy, and she happened to beat him and become the champion. And that was the end of it. We thought that's the last show we're doing. That was just one and only, just one little thing we're gonna do. Mm-hmm. Great, huh? But we had such a good turnout, I thought, and it was so much fun, and the audience kept with us. I think. Yeah. That I thought, well, I want to keep doing it. You know, maybe not forever, but I'm gonna keep doing it as long as I can. And the guy I did it with was like, no man, that was exhausting. I can't do that. I can't do anything like that. You're on your own. So I kept going at it, and I gathered other people I worked with at the time, and just people I met who I thought were funny, kind of like, hey man, you want to be in this crazy show I'm doing, and it just went from there, and it took longer. It took a long time at first to do shows. Like some of our shows were like 9 months apart. It's kind of like that now, actually, because of other things. But eventually we got ourselves a real ring, a real small ring, but it's actually a real ring. And just went from there, and and it's I say it's grown from then, but I'd say it's become a better show. It's more the storytelling's better. I'm now Tex Lonestar, the commentator. And I guess Wife Beater died or something. I don't really know what became of him, but
maybe Candy Reynolds finally took the ultimate revenge on him.
Candy Reynolds, if I can plug for her, she's actually quite kind of a somewhat of a celebrity now. She's in Austin now, and she runs a cooking blog called Hyla Cooking. That's getting a lot of press. So HylaCooking.com, check it out.
Wow.
Yeah,
nice plug.
She owes it all to me.
That being the beaten wife.
That's right. She paid her dues. Yeah, but and from there we just kept doing it, and we'd go to different venues like Helios. The place we were doing it was outside, so there was always fear of the rain.
Always fear of the crazy Texas weather.
Yeah, and there were also little pebbles on the ground, and some jerks would kind of pelt them at us.
No, wow.
And it was really and it was even more annoying because we give the audience stuff to throw at us. We give them these little cheese puffs, and and we even disguise them as Doomsday, power poppers or whatever. Or now we call them Sancheezys, but I guess people got so excited, and if they ran out of power puffs, they'd have to throw something at us. So doing it indoors is a lot better without rocks on the ground.
Yeah.
to throw at us.
Yeah, I think when I first heard about Doomsday, I was probably like a lot of my wrestling brethren. What is this show? I think I saw a flyer.
Yeah.
Probably the girl I was dating at the time and told me because she would go to it religiously.
Oh, really?
She wasn't quite as big of a. She was trying to get into wrestling at that point, and she talked about it in a couple shows, and I kind of dismissed it because I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
And then we ended things, and I remember the first time going.
So you were not going. The reason you weren't going is just out of spite to her.
It was out of spite to her, and honestly, I was probably like a lot of my friends initially. When you bring up Doomsday Wrestling, they go, "Well, it's making fun of the product," and I go, "Well, we all make fun of the product every time we go out there. Sometimes, but once I saw it, honestly, it was one of the few shows that I could watch and just be entertained. It was kind of, in essence, turn my brain off and not be the analyst. Like, I didn't care about the moves.
Yeah.
The stories were always so well thought out. Like, and from a production standpoint, because I think even at that point, I was booking shows. I think I was booking IWE at that point, and what I'd see you guys do, I wouldn't see from my talent, as far as like guys would be in character on your show, guys and gals, and they would remain in character from the time they got out of the curtain to the time they went back.
Yeah.
Like they were completely invested in what they were doing. Whereas what I would find in a lot of indie wrestling is just where maybe the entrance is great, maybe they have a kind of firm idea, and then they get in the ring, the bell rings, and they completely lose what they are.
Do you mean like they just go through motions of moves?
They just go, okay, it's a match, so forget what my character is, forget working the crowd. Yeah, I see a lot of that. And I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, I can even, WWE to an extent, they have the luxury of having television and so it's kind of hard not to be in character.
Yeah.
But I even see certain guys that fall out of what they're supposed to be, the role they're supposed to play. And so I was blown away not just by the characters, but by the production, as far as like your music cues. Instances, I remember like one with Golden Graham, where like in the middle of it there was like a dance number, which if you get a bunch of wrestling purists are like, oh my god, and me, I was going, oh my god, this is so awesome.
Thanks,
and I've always complimented you on the fact that you're everywhere, and you've got guys and gals that play multiple roles, and yet still don't lose sight of who they're playing and what that story is. And another thing I really enjoy about your show, which is kind of a tricky topic for a lot, is that live commentary, because you guys are in essence the narrators of the show.
I think that's necessary for us.
But I think in some ways it's necessary for live shows.
I kind of wish a lot of indie shows I went to had that.
But you run. I notice guys that run into that try to do that live commentary, and they're not really even sure of what the story that they're trying to tell, and they're just trying to go like be play by play. And I've always tried to educate announcers or commentators. It's more about the story. Like, your job is not just to necessarily dictate what's on the screen, it's all, or what's being portrayed, but it's also like the motive,
what is the heel doing now, and why is he pissing off the face, or vice versa. I mean, when I first started commentating as Tex Lonestar, I had to write out more of a script of what I was going to say, so I had to know exactly what the matches were what was going to be in them, and because otherwise I would just end up saying, oh look, a headlock, oh a body slam, oh he's punching him, and that's not really. I mean, people can see that. But I'd say it's the commentator's job to kind of say what's going on, and also remind the people what's at stake here.
I think y'all do a really good job of. I mean, just some of the storylines, no matter how out there they are. I mean, like the armadillo the consciousness, and then it becomes this big gigantic armadillo, or the time traveler, which was awesome. I think when me and Justin did Behind the Curtain, we did the cursed belt,
the cursed
which was awesome because you don't, in some ways, and I mean, we as wrestlers will analyze it, but I always kind of looked at it like, well, it's kind of true. Like, you get the belt, and your personality can change, and it can make you.
It's funny you say that, because that story was sort of loosely based on. There's not so much now, but as we were doing the show, we'd always get people in the show who were big wrestling fans, which I'm not so much. I'm not so much a big fan now, but I have been in the past. I'm a fair weather wrestling fan. Look at me. And these guys, they would get in it, and their whole goal in the show of Doomsday Wrestling was to be the champion, and it's laughable. I mean, it's just like, I mean, it's not like you're making any money, and it's not like you can go home that night, hey honey, I'm the champ now in this match that Greg wrote, and I had to fight a clown and an alien, but I'm the champ.
But I ended up at the end of the night.
I get to take this prop home with me. Maybe he might want to take it home because it may have broke during the match. He might need to fix it.
Yeah.
But, so and that was kind of a play on. It seems like there was always a guy in the show who. When is Greg gonna let me be champ? So we kind of.
When's my time?
Right. So the thing was, like, once you get the belt, does it drive you crazy? You don't want to get rid of it. And I guess that applies to big name to indie shows and bigger pro wrestling.
Yeah. So as far as putting the show together, because a lot of your shows you don't necessarily have to go. It's not serialized in the sense that you have to go to every. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily have to go to every show. No. You don't have like some big cliffhanger where people are like have to come back, because again the distance of time between each show is. I mean, you did 23. Did y'all do 23?
That was in June. So
June,
it's been a bit.
But do you just come up with an idea, like, okay, this is a central theme we want to come up with, or?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It was, it's usually a central theme, and then you ride around that. And it's also dictated. We do keep the champion linear. Like if one show, this makes sense. If one show ends and Joe Blow is the champion, he should be the champion in the next show.
Yeah. Well, at least for the opening, because you always do that thing of the main event of the evening. I'm like, all right, well, let's just get started with it. I'm going, that's brilliant. Whereas again, you get wrestling purists like, I can't believe they would put it. I'm like, well, it's the first of many. I'm sure they're going to do like 10 title switches between now and then.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's those linear aspects as far as champ to champ. But as far as like central theme and then.
It's usually it's based on a concept, and we might have during that concept we might kind of come up with an idea to change the title around. Like we had we had one show about a computer that Tex Lonestar purchased that would make matches for him.
Yeah.
It would measure crowd response, and so it would just make his job a whole lot easier. And of course, the computer gained sentience. Am I saying that right? Sentience, and it became self-aware and started taking over the show, and it started making these insane matches. I think one match was. But the stipulation of this match is you have to pin your opponent to 17 rather than 3, and it was just really tiring for everybody to be counting to 17. And that show was inspired by I watched this documentary on technology and how it's advanced over time, and how there's this event. Follow me. There's this event called the Singularity that's supposedly going to happen in 2040 something, where a computer can outthink a human brain.
Okay.
And people say that when that happens, like, the world will just change. Like, something insane will happen, and I guess the machines will take over. So watching that made me think, that'd be fun to do a show like where the machine takes over wrestling. It's little tiny things like that. Just kind of just reading comic books and movies kind of inspire things like that. But yeah, it's usually just a theme, like there's a theme about the cursed belt, theme about the computer taking over the show. There was an old show where it had been revealed that Tex made a deal with the devil a long time ago to get the show off the ground, and the devil was coming back looking for his soul, his payment, and just things like that. Just concepts. But some of our shows the theme is just a fight, just a good guy versus a bad guy. But of course, something ridiculous will happen along the way.
Yeah.
Like the armadillo
Oh God,
Yeah.
the armadillo was
Yeah,
awesome
yeah.
because I think we were actually at the armadillo marketplace with IWE.
Oh, really?
It was just kind of like, oh my God, of all things, an armadillo. So from the early stages of the concept to the finished script, in essence, how long does that usually take you from a writing standpoint?
Not the writing standpoint, not too long, because I usually have usually the ideas we've had them in some form before. Like there's probably like 10 ideas now that are on paper, like just concepts, and we haven't worked them out, and maybe the next show will be one of those ideas. But once we start putting it down, from there you just have to find out who's available for the show, where can you put them, and you have to kind of adapt it to what's going on there. But it usually takes about probably 2 or 3 weeks to get a rough on paper, and then we start rehearsing it, and along the way it always changes because of something or another. We'll come up with a better idea, or some guy can't do a backflip off the top rope or something. I'm just kidding, no one in our show can do a backflip off the top rope or anything close. But yeah, it's just the concept doesn't take too long, but once you start rehearsing it, you find out why it needs to change.
Okay.
Why you have to adapt it.
Okay. Just the production has increased, has gotten better. Like 23, you had another thing you guys do, which I wish more companies would do. There's always I always look at y'all's as like ultimately, and I was talking to Steve-O about this. Ultimately, I would love to do kind of wrestling as a Broadway play where you had multimedia, where you had videos, you had, you know, like a narrator, you had just, of course, it's just one of those big, over-the-top concepts of trying to figure out how to implement wrestling into that kind of form. Right, but I really, the production value, like you guys always have music. As soon as the doors open, you have music, or you had, like this last show, you had like 80s style
commercials.
sitcom, commercials and such, which I thought, well, you're just trying to get us into that world. And then there's always you around, walking, glad-handing a lot of people, like, you know, just welcome everybody to the show, which I think is awesome, because again, a lot of times you go to any indie show, okay, the doors open at 7, the show's not till 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and guys are just sitting, you know, people are just sitting there. Whereas with y'all's, there is that, well, at least there's you, there's something to watch, there's something kind of getting your attention and kind of getting you ready. And you guys always start promptly. On time.
Really? We do?
No. I'm sure you are like, oh Christ.
It seems like I was thinking it's 5 minutes. Oh my God.
No, y'all see, it's like clockwork, and you guys have it so well thought out that you're out within a couple of hours. It's just your like the attention to details, and not just you, but I think your entire crew does. I think I really want to compliment them a lot. After shows when I do see them. A lot of them know me from wrestling, so a lot of, I know, like the first time I saw you after show, there was that, are everything cool? I'm like, no man, I was blown away. I will be here as many shows as I can be. I appreciate you being concerned, but at the same time,
I remember seeing you in line, and I'd seen you at TSW, and I think somewhere else a few times before then. And I think I said, I don't know if I said, how do you write that in there, but I said, how do you, maybe after the show. I said, back to my friend who plays the Russian Bear, well, and a few other characters, I said, hey, you know, Sexy Steve is here, and I think that other guy is here too with the mask, with you know, and I don't know, are they gonna kick our ass after the show, or what? I mean, what's gonna happen, you know? And so we were because like our first show, I think not a lot of people, but a few people came there thinking it was just like an indie wrestling show, which I'm not saying is good or bad. It's bad at all. I'm just.
But they come in with a perception of what it's going to be.
And they were just kind of like, what the hell is this? You know? And so it kind of made me think like, well, maybe am I offending people? Because it was never my intention to make fun. Well, I don't say never my intention to make fun of anything, but I was never like saying, hey, wrestling's stupid, huh? It's stupid. I was never saying anything like that. It was poking fun at like anything. It's like any movie you see, that's a parody of something. I don't. It's not meant to be taken personally. It's
yeah. Well, like Spinal Tap.
Yeah,
is
Spinal
not,
Tap.
perfect example of
Yeah,
a
those guys
parody
don't.
of probably great musicians. I mean, which you discover and they have a love for it.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of looked at. Again,
Exactly.
once I dismissed it, and came to a show. I went, no, I saw it for what it was. It was entertaining. I could in essence turn my brain off, which is what I want to do when I watch Raw or when I watch SmackDown or when I watch pay-per-view or when I watch just matches. Like I was having this conversation with Booker this past week. We were talking about just losing the story, like how just any little thing. Because when I want to watch it, I don't want to analyze it.
Yeah, that happened to me when I was watching Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views heavily. I would just try to predict like, what are they going to do next, and what am I going to think about it? It takes you out of it.
Yeah, and I try to be completely as much of a fan as I can, and when stuff makes me lose that sense of awe. And the one thing I can say about Doomsday is that I'm never out of the story long enough, irregardless of the moves or the athleticism or what's going on or kind of the over the top. No, I never consider lack thereof because, again, if I'm in a 10 by 10 ring, there's not a whole lot I'm going to be able to do.
The ring, Steve.
It's the ring. No. Because like Don Wanamori, like I think he's a phenomenal bumper, and then you got, I think, like the Fabulous Bunny Boys. I mean, there's like I could go down the list, like Charlene, all of them, the Russian Bear. Like I remember when he had like an ape in a suit. Then he had a lady with him with an eye patch. And then the King Candy, I think, is phenomenal. Like all of it, Beefy Joe. I think I was one of those that got like a Beefy Joe chant started because we were
that guy needs all the help.
Oh my God, he's phenomenal! Like I just again because of the characters, they just go for broke. Like they're never out of the story, so I'm never out of the story. Whereas when I watch wrestling, and when I watch guys who are new to it. And they're not quite sure what the story is. Like they should know, and they're not quite. And then they lose it, and I go, "Well, I'm out of that. Let's get to the next one." So again, not just because you're on my show, I wouldn't have had you on my show if I wasn't a fan of that product. But with that, there are those that are critical, especially as you guys gain success. And honestly,
we all drive Porsches.
You're like, guys, you should want to come work for me. No, no, you don't. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. But I mean, as you've got like Houston Press, and the crowds you do draw, I think because of the distance between shows, I mean, it has become this event. Another thing I notice is the demographic of your audience is that there are in some senses there are more women at the shows because it's seemingly they treat it like a play. I mean they come out and they don't go. There's not that stigma with it.
It's a guy. It's not so much a guy thing.
Yeah, I think there's a stigma with wrestling where it's just not cool or it's or it's fake and I always go. A lot of stuff in the world is fake. Star Wars was fake. Avengers. That was real, guys. That was a documentary. Walking Dead. Yeah, they're just in a city that is infested by zombies. It's not real. But that criticism. Whereas I would find a lot of people that would go to a Doomsday show wouldn't necessarily go to a wrestling show.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I'd say I don't know what percentage of our audience. I should take a poll. How many of them actually watch like wrestling or what? I don't know. Maybe half. I don't know, or maybe not even half. I'm not sure. But it's nice though. I mean, a lot of ideas in our show by cast members, even me. I guilty of it sometimes. You will try to pitch ideas that are kind of mimicking what you see on TV on WWE or something, and then I realize like, well, not everybody's going to get that because they haven't watched WWE, so we have to adjust it to kind of like an audience that is just coming looking for a play or a comedy show, you know. So, but there are a lot of women in our audience. I think that's cool. You know.
Well, like I said, I like the fact that you have the doors are closed before, and you have that line, so there's that aesthetic. People that are driving, they see that, and then once the doors are open, you have the music, and you have you going out there, kind of welcoming everyone.
If I can stop you, I've always felt weird about doing that, because I would always, whenever I'd go to indie shows and I'd see wrestlers walking around, but before the show started, some of them were eating nachos or whatever. I always hated it. Like, man.
Well, no, that I don't. That I wouldn't. I'm one of those guys. Like, I'm in the back as much as humanly possible because I don't want to kill the illusion.
Yeah, that's.
But with you being,
I guess I'm in character.
Well, you're Tex Lonestar. Like when you come out there, you're in your gear.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you are in essence the owner of the company. So it's like it would be the equivalent of like Booker T. Before a reality wrestling show, or Charmel, like being out there, like, hey guys. And Charmel, she's usually out there because she's working the door and whatnot. But no, I like it. It's not because it's one of those things that I don't think wrestling companies do. They don't have, because like even at IWE, I would tell like Adrian Jones, like, I can't necessarily be that guy because I have to run the back.
Right.
Which you have to run the back, but your guys are already kind of.
I trust them.
Well, by now you should. You're like, look, you know what's going on. We've gone over this numerous times. Whereas with me, we haven't gone over it numerous times. We need to go over it. But I'd have like Adrian as my figurehead, like go out there and be the guy. And even then, why? And I'm like, well, Doomsday does it. Like, just do something.
Because Doomsday.
But on the flip side, you do have wrestling critics. You do have those. And what's your opinion? I hate to ask like the opinion.
That's the scathing question.
I mean, when you do get that criticism, where there are some that, for whatever reason, they're critical of it. Like, I see it for what it is. It's a play that happens to be about wrestling.
About a wrestling show. Yeah, that's what it is.
But I mean, for you, being the kind of the creator of this empire, so to speak.
My millions.
I've before you answer the question, I have told numerous people that like when certain companies are kind of failing, that I need to bring in Tex Lonestar to be the big bad Texas promoter who's like, I just will buy your talent and buy your show, and then just to have you along for the ride as I pull out my hair.
We can do that sometimes. If you can get like Justin maybe to film it, we can at least film us attempting to do that. It probably won't work. But we can. And it's funny you say that though about companies failing, because I always feel like Doomsday is on the brink of collapse. Like every day I think like, man, is it over?
It?
Yeah, is that
God, it was a great run, guys.
Does everybody hate me in the show yet? But I'm sorry. Ask the question once again.
As far as like the critics go, like what do you think of that stuff when they are overly critical?
I think I think that I don't know. We've always had people who either are huge wrestling fans who think that we're making a mockery of wrestling, or people who are actual indie wrestlers who think that we're cutting it down or something like that. I remember at Comic Palooza we did our show, and it was right, like our little tiny ring is next to NWA Houston's regular.
Oh, I remember that, and I was I probably didn't make matters any better because whenever I hear people that are critical of your stuff, especially since I was dismissive of it at first. But I'm such a big fan of it.
Oh, thank you.
That
I'm a big fan of you.
I go to bat. So like I remember being at being at the Comic Palooza and seeing, and first thought was like, crap, I can just think NWA and Tony Brooklyn being, and I was like, why would Comic Palooza do that? Like, they could have separated you guys. Just because the comparison,
it was just kind of I don't know. It was weird. It seemed like they should have put us on another end or something.
Well, on the one hand, okay, maybe the NWA guys, yes, they're trained wrestlers. But from an entertainment standpoint, I was far more entertained because you did have the commentary, because you had the music, because it wasn't such a stripped down version of a show, whereas the NWA, and no offense to them, because I recall getting the promoter of said NWA had actually was like, oh, I heard you're going to be at Comic Palooza, would you want to do the show? Wouldn't put me on his regular show, mind you, for whatever reason, but was like, I'm in need of guys. Would you do this? And I'm like, no, I'm not here to wrestle. I'm here to enjoy
really?
my night. I was there to enjoy my Sunday.
He was asking you.
Yeah, he was asking me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I'm just gonna. So I remember sitting there, and then like, okay, well, y'all's segment ended. I thought, well, I'll go to the NWA one, and being bored because in between matches there was nothing going on.
Yeah.
There was really no music being played. There was no sense of come see this.
Or stick around.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're wrestling. Stick around for that. And it's like, well, I as a consumer need more.
Yeah.
But back to So what were you thinking as in that situation where it was?
Well, I thought it was just kind of. At first, when I saw the setup, I thought, well, are people gonna leave Comic Palooza confused over what they saw? Are they gonna? I like that. Like, not that they'd like our show better, but what if they liked NWA better, but they left saying, man, I really love Doomsday Wrestling. That guy Tugboat really puts on a good show. I was worried about confusion. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm not giving people enough credit. They can.
No, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Well, a lot of people, I think, might leave our show. Like a friend of a friend who comes to our show might leave. I went and saw that silly wrestling show. They might not remember the name, but I was worried about that. And then I just thought, like, well, what if they? A lot of times it was us performing, then they would perform right after us.
Yeah.
And so I thought, like, well, or vice versa. What if we perform and then everybody thinks everything's over and they leave and nobody watches them, or and stuff like that. And I didn't see it as a competition. Like, we gotta make sure these guys look bad. You know? And we got a little bit of flack from some of those guys. Not like bad intimidation or anything, but I remember like the Bunny Boys were on all 3 days of Comic Palooza, and should I name names? I mean,
I will name
names.
I don't remember, they get offended. It's kind of we're giving you press. I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, right. So the Bunny Boys were in all three shows, and I remember NWA had a battle royal plan. Back to Battle Royals had a battle royal plan for the last day of Comic Palooza. Mm-hmm. I guess they needed guys. Maybe they were asking. Mm-hmm. And Tugboat came up to the Bunny Boys and said, "Hey, would you guys be interested in being like in the battle royal for just maybe like 15 seconds or something, or just getting quickly thrown out?" And those guys, which I wish they would have said this, were like, "Oh yeah, sure." And I'm thinking, and when I heard that, I'm thinking like, "Oh no, just who knows what could
you weren't sure if Tug's like, all right, now just beat up these poor.
Or what are they gonna do? Are they gonna refuse to fall out? Those guys. No, and so then Tugboat's son, who's a wrestler, was like, "Are you serious, Dad?" And it was just kind of like, "No, Dad." And it was so.
While Tug got it, his son was like, "I don't understand why you want him in there." And I'd be like, "Well, I see me as a booker. I'd be like, well, let's just let's join forces for some battle for all." And then Tex Lonestar takes off the suit and in his singlet throws everyone out.
I think Tugboat was really just trying to get more warm bodies.
I'm sure he was like, "Oh man, we are desperate for guys." But at the same time, I mean, I think it would have been a good little cross.
And I would say his son's name, but to be frank, I can't remember.
It's fine. It's fine. He would probably be so hurt. I've mentioned his name on my show numbers. Okay, he's actually the reason I don't wrestle in NWA.
Really?
Yeah, he and I have a difference of opinion.
His name. Chaz, that's right. Yeah, I couldn't think of his name.
Yeah. Okay. This year I think he was Wolverine at Comic Palooza.
Like he wrestled at
he put in body paint.
Oh.
Yeah.
But he wrestled as it?
No, he just walked around.
Okay. Okay.
He just walked around. I don't think NWA, I think Reality Wrestling was the only one. But so the critics don't really, I don't want to say they bother you. Or do they? Is there ever a sense where
it doesn't hurt my feelings or anything, but it does. It makes me wonder, maybe you haven't seen our show. We have one guy writing us saying it's an insult to not just professional wrestling; it's an insult to mixed martial arts and anybody who does any form of karate or fighting or martial arts. And I just wrote him and I said, well, if you want to, we're not meaning to do that, but if you want to. I'll put you on the guest list if you just want to come see our show, and maybe if you haven't seen it, maybe you'll realize it's the equivalent of going to an actual emergency room and watching an ER. It's one's fictional and one's not. And I don't know if doctors get offended when they watch ER. Maybe they do. I don't know.
Oh my God, I can't believe they used that term. Oh my God, that is not right. It would take hours. You're like,
Maybe they do. I don't know.
Doc
But,
just relaxes.
yeah. But I've never had any like death threats or anything. But it's
No one threatened to blow up numbers.
Yeah.
Like, I'll blow up that ring. You're like, well, it's a 10 by 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing us a favor. But no, yeah. I mean, I do hear a little bit of on Facebook or something. Like I had one guy put on our event. We had an event happening a couple of years ago, and somebody put, our show happened to be on the same night as Booker T's show, and somebody put, and I've been to Booker T's show plenty of times. It's a good show, and that's saying a lot because, not to put down indie wrestling, but a lot of it's not very good. I mean, I'll openly.
No, it's there is that. Not just because I work for Booker.
Yeah.
But I do, and I was talking to Steve about this, about just situations with Booker where it is a very tightly put together show where there isn't a lot of room for you to try to, I don't want to say go into business for yourself, but I mean times are here too, because again we don't want to present a product that will bore a crowd.
Right.
Crowds today especially, I mean because of what's on TV, it's not conducive to have long marathon type matches or have a lot of dead space or so. Like, that I mean, especially with having Justin and Kevin and everybody, like, we're so focused on being out in 2 hours and getting whatever TV, whatever tapings we need. But yeah, I mean, and then I'll go to others, and it is kind of, man, if you would do this, tighten up here, or why wouldn't you? Why is there dead space? Why don't I hear commentators? Why is the talent doing that? Yeah. So there's for me it's 10 times worse. Like, I can't even enjoy matches a lot of times. Like shows.
You're worried.
It's just I get taken out of the story so quickly that then the analyst part of me like just takes over and it's just not enjoyable. So
no, I know what you mean. But I mean it's I like. We don't get too much flack about it, but we've gotten a little, and I think it's usually a case that those people haven't seen our show, and I'm not saying that once they see our show they'll love it and they'll understand and it'll be great, but I maybe they think we're really hammering it home that we think wrestling is stupid or something, and we're really not. I mean, it's just, I mean, I think everything's stupid in some way. I mean, and I can make fun of it, but it's never like, I wouldn't devote, I mean, I've done this show for like 10 years now. I wouldn't spend 10 years just trying to make fun of something that, I mean,
in the back of your mind, I hate this wrestling, I will destroy it! Because I always, because after seeing Doomsday, I started to see like Hood Slam is kind of...
Yeah, there's a few little...
there's a couple of out there, like Viva La Lucha, I think is another one, where it is the over-the-top, and so there was some stuff like G4, I would turn it on like at 6 a.m. and they'd have this, it's in a wrestling ring, but it was like giants and,
it was really unreal.
Yeah, really unreal, but at the same time, the concepts of taking a wrestling ring and kind of these larger-than-life characters and like throwing them in. Like I always thought, and again trying to get away with it and trying to get wrestlers to do it, would be like get the Justice League versus the Legion of Doom. Like get wrestlers to put on the outfits and play those rules, but put it within a wrestling component and see how people would react to that. Like that stuff really intrigues me.
Well, kids would love it.
I always think doing tributes. I was telling Steve this, like doing a show called Mania, where it is like paying homage to a particular WrestleMania, and then you'd have characters playing. Who's going to play the Undertaker?
WrestleMania 3 under.
And then have like Hulk Hogan break out in a song, and Andre the Giant break out in a song, and then lead up to this big, not match by match, but the certain big, certain big.
You would see the homages to certain moments.
I wanted to do so, but again, that manpower and time and the resources and having a building and all. I mean, that all of that stuff becomes a. Yeah, I'm sure you deal with that because you've had to move to a couple of buildings because you were at Fitzgerald's for a while.
Yeah, Fitzgerald's. They got new owners, and it's kind of by accident we're not at Fitzgerald's anymore. They got new owners, and we had a show booked like 3 months after our. We did a show, then 3 months later we had a show booked. But in between that, they got new owners, and those guys, the new owners weren't aware that any shows were booked, and so our show and a bunch of bands like for a week like just didn't have show. It didn't get to perform because some, I guess the old owner didn't give them, here's our booking for the next, for that week.
They were like, take your building.
I guess they just, they thought, oh, there's an open week, we'll just book whatever we want. I thought, well, maybe we can, I think Numbers called, somebody told Numbers and somebody called them from us and said you could do our show here. And so we've just been there ever since. I guess we could go back to Fitzgerald's or just go back and forth, but I kind of like Numbers because it's in a, well, so is Fitzgerald's. It's in a good location, but Numbers, as far as the seating goes, every seat is kind of a good seat. Fitzgerald's, you have that balcony, which is nice, but if you're not in the front row of the balcony, you're kind of just peering over people's heads. I mean, Numbers could, they could have nicer bathrooms. But no, I love Numbers.
So, when I told people that I was going to have you on my show, the common question I get, and I'm sure you get it way more than I get it, is when the next Doomsday show is.
Oh, yeah, man.
Do you have, like, an idea? I mean, if you don't, no big deal. It's just, I know that people that watch my show would be like, well, you didn't ask it what the next show was, and I'd be like... it
seems like I should be on here promoting something, right?
No. I brought you here specifically because I wanted to talk Doomsday and the creative process and characters and all that, and kind of get into your mind as far as, like, what were you thinking when you created, again, the empire that is Doomsday. I mean, it's been around since
2003.
But in history, like since
1836.
Oh my God!
It's been a long time.
Sam Houston was the first. He was the first guy.
Champion.
Oh my God! Okay, but
the next show. I want to say, as lame as it sounds, I have this schoolwork thing I'm working on right now. That is such a lame excuse.
Life gets in the way.
I mean, Doomsday. If I lived off Doomsday, I'd be homeless. But it's either going to be before the year's up in December or early 2015.
Okay.
But we're getting things. There's a light at the end of the tunnel for me as far as my school and work goes, and we should be doing back to our usual probably 3 or 4 times a year schedule that I loved. Now we're down to like once or twice a year, which I understand. I guess I look at Doomsday as kind of a special event. It's not a monthly thing.
Yeah.
But I'd like to do it more than once or twice a year. I'd like to do it at least 3 times a year. So if not in December, early 2015, you have my word.
Now, real quick before we get into some off the wall topics.
Is that the off the wall portion of the show? Or you have a little
not the whole. Not that the whole show hasn't been off the wall. As far as like turnover for you, because from a booking standpoint, from a guy that's directing the show, how has turnover been for you? Like, because I know there is quite a bit of turnover.
You mean like
characters?
But you mean characters or actors?
Actors.
There's been some guys who are in the show who have been in it. Well, to be honest, I'm the only person who's been in it from day one. Dirty Sanchez is the guy. He was in Doomsday 2, and he's been in it ever since. As far as everyone else goes, though, we have a pretty solid cast right now. There's a few people who are I call them the reserve members who come in and out every once in a while. We'll always pick up new people along the way, but there is a core like about 5 people who have been in the show for a good while now, since like probably 2006 or 7.
Okay.
And granted, they're not in every show, but they're always around. I mean, there's a few people who are just done with it and don't want to do it anymore. I'm sorry, what was your question?
No, like as far as turnover, how does it affect, as far as actors, how does it affect?
It's not that, it affects, the only way it affects me, it's not that bad because I will say there's a lot of people who want to be in the show. Like after every show, somebody will come up to me, or a couple of guys will come up to me and say, hey, how can I get involved in this? And I always say, write me, don't expect me to call you because I'm not going to remember because it's a busy day. But, and sometimes I hear from those guys, sometimes I don't. Like I don't know if you know, the Society of Distinguished Gentlemen. Those were 2 guys who just saw us at Comic Palooza and started talking to us about it. And they kept up with us, and they're in the show now, and they're really, really mad about it. They really love being in it and all that. So and they're young guys. They're like 12. No, they're like in their early 20s. So I'm reckoning they'll probably be in it for a while. Until I fire them.
Wait, have you ever done like a firing? as part of an angle? Like, have you ever fired as Tex Lonestar ever had to?
Tex Lonestar's never fired anybody.
Okay.
He's gotten fired, and a few other people have gotten fired.
Yeah.
But when the company Doomsday 20 was bought out.
That's right.
We were fired and replaced by hipper
sexier versions
of ourselves. but yeah, Tex has never. Yeah, he's never fired.
He's never done a Vince McMahon.
You're out. Yeah. But as far as turnover, it affects. You have to create new characters.
Mm-hmm.
That meaning you have to buy new costumes. You have to develop what the character does, what their move set is.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have move sets. I mean, each.
The moves are called. You have quite. Some have so many different names for them, but you do have.
They have an arsenal of maneuvers, and we recycle a bunch of them. But it just means spending money on costumes and developing new characters. And sometimes you get stuck because you'll get somebody who is a great, nice guy, but you can't think of anything to do with him right off the bat. I mean, you could slap a mask on him and just make him some generic guy who's probably going to go out and lose. But some people have like a character that just screams at you what you want to do. Like there's a guy on the show who he hasn't been in a while, but he's a lawyer in real life by trade, and he's a super nice guy, but he works so well as like as a Ted DiBiase millionaire.
Oh, nice,
billionaire type character.
Okay.
Because he knows how to. When he talks, he sounds like he's demeaning you because he's used to. I think I don't know if he's a defense lawyer or what, but it sounds like he's always attacking you when he talks. So he's a natural bad guy. I mean, he's a good guy. He's a great guy in real life.
Yeah. Now, who comes up with the music?
The music is mainly. I have some idea, but Drew, the guy who plays the Russian Bear, he picks a lot of the music, and he has a really good ear for it. And we edit a lot of the music too for certain cues. Yeah. Like some really cheap software at my house, and we have like a Radio Shack microphone that Drew will sing a bunch of the song. We'll find an instrumental song, like a classical piece. Yeah. And Drew will sometimes sing over it. Yeah. And you
like Poop Deck Peterson.
Yeah, Poop Deck Peterson. Yeah.
And there's some that the song fits the character.
Yeah. But we try to find like I'm a big fan of just bad music in the show. Yeah. Like I won't just. Music that makes people cringe. Like I kind of want that in the show. Like I don't want it to be enjoyable music. To be embarrassing music, Drew. Me and Drew had an idea a long time ago. I don't know if we'll ever do this because it'd be a whole lot of work. But instead of using music for like famous music for characters, what if we just like recorded our own music, like with either an instrumental, which I guess we'd still be stealing music if we did that, and recording a vocal track over it. But I think we're far enough. We're not on the radar enough to get sued by anybody. So
well, it's not like you're selling it, posting it out there,
featuring the music, of whatever, mainly Drew and me, and we just edited.
Okay.
Yeah.
So outside of Doomsday, school and work, what other interests do you have? Is comic books kind of your?
Comic books. I don't really actively read. Like I don't go monthly now and read comic books that come out now. I usually go to. It's kind of funny. I go in Austin. There's this great comic book store called Austin Books and Comics. Oh, I
used to work at Texas Rehabilitation Commission, and their building was on. I want to say around 51st Street, but it was walking distance to Austin Comics and Books and or Books and Comics. But I would always go there every Wednesday on my lunch break. And it was, and I mean, I went there one of my last trips to Austin. When we go to Austin here in the next week, I'm hoping we'll get to go out there. But I really
it's a great store. But they have a store next to it now called the Sidekick Store, and every comic in there is $1, and it's all just old like 80s stuff. I mean, none of it's worth any money, but it's all like 80s just stuff, 80s Marvel, and I kind of go in there sometimes and spend like $30 on just kind of just like I like comics where it's just like Marvel team up, where Spider-Man teams up with Submariner, and it's just like an issue long story where they fight some minor villain. I read a lot of that. Sometimes guilty. I go to Barnes and Noble and just read the trade paperbacks. I don't buy them, but I read them, and that kind of keeps me up to date. And comic books are expensive nowadays. $4 a piece. And, I usually keep up with what's going on, at least in the Marvel world. And as far as hobbies go, I read comics. I watch a lot more TV now than I used to. Thanks to like TV's kind of good now. With you know, like HBO shows and AMC shows, Breaking Bad stuff.
Yeah, Breaking Bad, big fan,
good show,
big fan of that. I'm like a big fan of The Bridge.
I haven't watched that yet.
That one's not bad. I think it's one of those shows that was done, I want to say like maybe in Switzerland or some foreign kind of like the girl with the golden with the dragon tattoo, kind of along the same lines, and they brought it to America, and I think it's on its second season. I like that one. Like The Following, I'm a big fan of. Yeah, there's so many. I kind of like when Breaking Bad ends. I'm kind of gonna be sad when Mad Men ends.
Yeah,
that's such a big. And I mean, that was really the show that brought in like the Breaking Bad, the Walking Dead. And I mean, I'm a big fan of Walking Dead. I'm really eager to see where they go with that.
Yeah, I like Walking Dead.
Yeah, there's so many. I like Empire Boardwalk. I would love to get into. Adrian's
I didn't watch that.
Huge fan of it. I started. I think I watched the first season, and I guess they're on their final season. He's like, you really need to check it out.
Okay.
I'm like, man, I'm so fun. Yeah,
it's
their last, and they have built a final season. Unlike Deadwood, that was 3 seasons and ended on a.
It just abruptly ended.
Yeah, because I guess they were gonna make we'll do a 4th, and then it
just
all went to.
Yeah, that was a good show too. I liked. I watched I never watched it. Me and my girlfriend, she'd seen it before, but The Sopranos recently. And
that
holds up. That's a really good show.
Yeah.
I didn't. I guess when it was on, I just thought that's just some mobster thing. I've seen The Godfather. But
I've seen Analyze This. I've seen some mobster getting. Well, Greg, man, this was truly a treat. When I started doing the show, you were on a short list of people that I wanted on the show, so I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much. And we were like an hour. Wow.
Oh, weren't we?
Yeah, man. Great.